Today I'm going to teach you how to sew an easy and super cute fabric heart-shaped bookmark. The link below in the description box will take you to these pattern pieces that you can print out and sew along with us. And if you're watching from our website, alohasewingcompany.com, welcome and sew along. These make the absolute cutest gifts for any book lovers in your life, and they last forever. You can use whatever kind of fabric you want. I'm using a custom stretch fabric today. I do recommend using 100% cotton instead of this, but you can use whatever you like. You need 2 heart shapes and 1 square shape, and I'm also adding a one-sided fusible fleece to the back of one of my hearts. You do not have to do that. This is just because I'm using a custom fabric that's a little bit flimsy, and it just gives it a little sturdiness. Get the heart-shaped fabric for the front of your bookmark and lay it right side down so that the wrong side of the fabric is facing you. If you're going to add the fusible fleece interfacing or whatever kind of interfacing, you want to add it to the back of this piece like I'm doing here, with the rough side facing the wrong side of your fabric. Turn it over and press it with your iron, not using steam, and for about 10 seconds. And if you didn't notice, I cut that interfacing about 1/4 inch smaller than the actual heart piece. Now you're going to get your square fabric and fold it in half so that it creates a triangle. If you want to add interfacing, I would also add it to the inside of this triangle, and I will show you briefly how I do that here. Again, this is totally optional, but it just gives a little bit of sturdiness to some fabrics. You're going to add the interfacing, place the long side of the triangle right flush with the center crease of this fabric here. I cut it about 1/4 inch smaller, and then you fold this fabric back in half to a triangle, and with the rough side of that interfacing facing you, press it with your iron so that it adheres to your fabric. Now grab your other heart fabric piece and lay it right side down. Get the point at the bottom of the heart and fold it up approximately 1.5 inches. Definitely not smaller than that. Iron this flat if you need to so that it creates a nice crease. And then you're going to grab your other heart-shaped fabric again. Lay it with the right side facing up towards you and get your triangle piece and lay it right on top, matching the bottom points together. Then get your folded heart piece with the right side facing down and put it right on top, creating a sandwich, aligning the top of the heart. Pin or clip this in place in a few places. I definitely suggest pin or clipping it where you see the fold starts so that way it stays in place when you sew. And then we are going to sew all the way around our heart using about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And here's a little tip for sewing around curves and points. About 1/4 inch from the top curved point, put a little dot and do the same thing at the bottom. These are going to be your guide marks for where you turn your fabric as you sew. Take it to your machine and starting at the bottom side, sew all the way around your heart using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. For our beginner sewers, because we all learn somewhere, I'm going to show you how to sew around these curves. So I'm going to take my first clip out and I'm going to start right here at the edge. And another tip is 1/4 inch means lining your fabric up with the very side of your walking foot here and using that as your sewing guide. That's 1/4 inch seam allowance. Start sewing, back stitch just a couple stitches, and then continue going until you get to that very small dot that we made on our fabric. When you get to that dot, make sure your needle is positioned inside your fabric before you stop sewing. Lift your presser foot, rotate your fabric, and then you're going to continue sewing along that other side, remembering to line up the side of your fabric with the side of your walking foot. As you get to points in your curves where your fabric is not rotating naturally, you're going to keep your needle inside your fabric, lift your presser foot, and rotate your fabric as needed. Continue sewing slow using a small, short stitch all the way around. And again, with your needle inside the fabric, lift your presser foot and move your fabric around the curves as you need to. When you're coming to the top of this heart here, remember you have that little dot 1/4 inch below that curved point, and you're going to stop there with the needle inside that little dot. And then you're going to lift your presser foot and rotate your fabric so that you can continue sewing around the other heart curve. Finally get back to your original stitching point. Make sure you back stitch a couple to secure those stitch lines, and this is what you should have. It looks a little funny, and again, I'm using a custom stretch fabric, so it looks funnier than yours probably should. But now we're going to trim off the seam allowance right there at the bottom corner of our heart, and then make a little slit at the top curved point and around any of your curves, going all the way around the curves of your heart. You're going to do this so that when you flip this right side out, those curves will lay nice and flat and they won't pucker. It's what helps it be a heart shape. If you have extra seam allowance, you can trim it off like I'm doing here, and I would suggest doing that before you start cutting your slits. Make sure when you're making your slits that you do not cut through your stitches. You're just gonna slit right up to your stitches. If you have pinking shears, you can do that around your curves instead of cutting slits. Now we're going to go to the opening at the bottom where that fold was placed and turn this right side out. Your opening should be a little bit larger than mine. If you folded that heart point up to 1.5 inches. Mine was just a little bit shorter, but I have a stretched fabric, so it would stretch through there nicely. Go ahead and flip it right side out and smoothen out all the seams with your fingers or whatever tool you like to use. I also like to use a chopstick and go through every single seam that I have to make sure that it's opened and that my heart lays nice and flat and is shaped nice and pretty. Now you are completely done sewing this. So we are going to get the back triangle piece of this bookmark and flip it over to the front heart piece. This is going to conceal that small opening on the inside, and don't worry about that fraying because with the fold that we created, you won't even see it. So go ahead and push out the bottom point of your heart very carefully and making sure not to poke through your fabric stitches, and then press it flat with your iron if you need to. These make the cutest gifts to any book lover. My teens are very avid readers and I love giving them little gift cards to get new books, and I put the gift cards in these and they love them. They've lasted forever. You can put the heart bookmark on the bottom of your page or the top of your page, and you can use it on absolutely any kind of book for kids or, adult reading. It really doesn't matter. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and have fun sewing along with me. Please, please, please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel to see all of our easy sewing patterns as they're released. Visit AlohaSewingCompany.com, or the link is down below in the description box on YouTube to see all of our super easy sewing patterns that you can print at home so you can start to sew faster. We make sewing patterns for literally everything, from baby items, kids' clothes, decorations, holiday stuff and gifts, bags and more. And before you go, mahalo.